So, yeah, the theme of the talk is fierce compassion and how fierce compassion melts ice. And it's all kinds of ice. So, it begins with travels I was doing with Radley last summer. We were in Ladakh in India in July. And traveling through that amazing country literally at the top of the world, as you can see the mountains there. It's at 15,000 feet, so the mountains are above the tree line, so they're totally bare. There's no trees on the mountains. But visiting the monasteries, an opportunity to actually visit with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, which was an incredible opportunity. But in this particular monastery, seeing this statue that I showed at the beginning, which is a statue of the Buddhist Bodhisattva of compassion called Chenrezig, or Avalokiteshvara. And as you can see in this part, this close-up here, Chenrezig doesn't have just one head. She has multiple heads, 360 degrees all around, looking in every direction. And then there's another layer of heads above that, and another layer of heads above that, and another layer of heads above that, looking out in all direction. And in the background, you can see the hands reaching out, like a halo of hands, thousands of hands reaching out in every direction. And then the third eye, in the forehead. It's so Chenrezig can see every being who is suffering, every being who is struggling, and then the hands are the reaching out to console, to comfort, to heal. I've seen many faces, many kind of tankas, paintings, statues of Chenrezig, but the expression on this particular one really sort of caught my attention, because there's a sort of intensity and a sort of fierceness that kind of in a way kind of shocked me a little bit. It's so strong, but it really, I think, captures for me that sense of fierce compassion. And as Radley and I were looking up into Chenrezig's face, we were reminded of our dear friend and mentor, Joanna Macy, who had just passed away, just died on July 19, actually, so just before we'd left for India. And Joanna was a mentor. She was became a very close, dear friend. And we were very much grieving her as we traveled. But as we looked into the face of Chenrezig, we were reminded, Joanna doesn't have in her lovely face here, it doesn't have that fierceness, but she did have that fierce compassion. She was a fierce advocate for kindness, for justice, for connection in a kind of cold, disconnected world. So often cold, disconnected world. So we're reminded of Joanna. And so then coming to where we are these days in our country, and coming closer to home, and just feeling the chill in the air. We don't feel it here literally outside our doors here at the moment in Santa Barbara. It's like summertime. It's so warm and sunny and beautiful. But in our communities, on my cell phone, I'm seeing kind of notification of ice agents in nearby communities, and I'm also seeing weather warnings about the icy chill that's still there, still lingering at the east side of the country. It's been there now for over a week, I guess, Just been talking to someone up in Boston, who was saying there's still kind of 2 feet of snow outside the door. And so there's a chill in our communities. And so I've just been kind of thinking about ice, about what happens when ice comes into our lives and into our communities, when that incredible cold comes in. And ice, in its literal sense, shuts things down. It hardens. It causes what's soft to retreat back into its shell, back inside. If there is an inside to go to, really feeling for folks who don't have a home to go to in this cold, like this person here crossing the road. But capitalized ice triggers fear and creates hate, polarization, division in our communities. Another kind of cold. The cold of ice is the opposite of warmth. And the terror that ice can induce is the opposite of compassion. So when I was kind of thinking of these ideas and just what was happening and the feelings that this brought up, I saw this headline in the Guardian newspaper: "The women's sphere urges dubious followers to back ICE. Don't let compassion cloud you," quote. So conservative figures such as Riley Gaines, Ali Beth Stuckley are urging their followers to ward off empathy for victims of ICE's crackdown. Riley Gaines, who's one of the leading figures of the women's sphere, which promotes an anti-feminist, gender essentialist agenda to their followers, pleaded with her flock not to feel bad for victims of ICE cruelty. Don't let compassion, or what you believe to be compassion, cloud you or suspend you from thinking critically, she said. And Ali Beth Stuckley, in the same piece, who published a book called Toxic Empathy, How Progressives Exploit Christian Compassion, preaches that empathy can make Christians weak because it allows reflex horror over systemic violence and cruelty to cloud their objectivity. Quote, "Show empathy to the wrong person, be it migrants, people of color, the disenfranchised, anyone who defends their rights, or and you're a pawn of progressives who wish to weaponize the concept of caring for one another to feed you a lie," she said, later adding, "There are a lot of people out there who want you to be dumb. So know this, women. I want you to think, because women, you're not just feelers." And this isn't just about women. It's a sort of an attack on empathy. It's an attack on compassion for all beings. And its basic message is saying, and it's not just the women's sphere, it's been coming from other, many of you may be aware that it's coming from many others who've been saying this. Don't trust your feelings, don't trust your heart. You don't need to be empathic or compassionate. It'll only make you vulnerable to exploitation by those who mean you harm. So this is confusing. I didn't find it confusing, but I realized, that kind of messaging and the kind of messaging that empathy and compassion are not to be trusted, are not to be practiced, are potentially dangerous or harmful to oneself. I can see how this is kind of really sowing confusion and raising the question, well, who am I? Who are we? If it really calls into question something that kind of a different understanding that I've kind of had of who we are as human beings. And so about a month ago now, I was sitting on a ledge on this big granite monolith boulder in Big Sur here in California. And I was just sitting there in this ancient presence, this ancient steadiness, this ancient solidity, the presence of what felt a very ancient being, sitting there, and just, it was a beautiful, as they say in Ireland, a beautiful soft morning with a kind of really gentle rain falling. So just to give you a little feel of this for a moment, and you can hear the rain on the foliage if you listen carefully. And I was sitting there just in that sense of being held and just listening to the rain and just allowing the rain to fall on me as it was falling on the leaves and the rock. Words came, I didn't hear the words being spoken out loud, but it was kind of a sense of these words coming from within. And the words that came were, I am your holding. You are my warmth. I am your holding. You are my warmth. I am your holding. You. So I felt in some ways this was an answer to this question. Who am I? Who are we? Who are we in our deepest nature? We are in our deepest nature this warmth, the warmth of the stars, the warmth of the sun, the warmth of the earth's core. We are this warmth with intentionality. We are this warmth on 2 feet with the capacity to turn on a dime and with intentionality in flesh and blood. We are this warmth. We can choose to whom, where we bring that warmth. We have the capacity to choose who we open to in that warmth, who we include in that warmth, to whom we radiate that warmth. We are that warmth. We have the capacity to choose. So we are the warmth of the earth's core. We are the warmth of the sun and the star on 2 feet in flesh and blood with the capacity to choose. And this is the golden rule of all the great spiritual traditions. The golden rule of compassion. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Some of you may have seen this in the United Nations in New York. This is echoed across all spiritual traditions. In St. John, all is love. Love is all. Or St. Matthew's Gospel, what you do for the least of these, you do to me. What you do for the least of these, you do to me. Or His Holiness the Dalai Lama, if you want to be happy, practice compassion. If you want others to be happy, practice compassion. And Thich Nhat Hanh, talking about interbeing, kind of reminding us that in our deepest essence, we're not solid, separate little billiard balls interacting in that way, like marbles. We are interbeings. Interbeingness, interdependence, interconnectedness is who we are in our deepest nature. And the big lie at the root of that kind of messaging around, pathologizing empathy and compassion, the big lie at the root of that is telling us that we belong in siloed, separate groupings, telling us that we are solid, separate individuals, tribes, beings, countries, and that we need that separateness and solidity for our survival and progression. So, we often think like that on the left, all the separate countries, tribes. But really how it is one planet, one home, one community. Or as Joanna puts it, we are planet people. We're all planet people. I just saw kind of a notification that came from a bumper sticker, actually, from Amnesty International the other day, just saying humanity has no borders. We're all human. We're all planet people. We share our humanity. We share the fact that we have a common mother, the earth. We're all expressions of the great love, the blazing heart of the cosmos that exploded into life with the Big Bang, that continues to create, to expand, to diversify in countless ways that we cannot even begin to imagine. And as that's true at a kind of big macroscopic level, so it's true for the microcosm. So it's true for each of us, each person, each being. And one of the ways into a realization of this is actually through the practice we began with this morning, the field of care practice, the compassionate presence to feelings practice. Just think for a moment. If you ask someone, okay, what are you feeling right now? And whether it's joy or whether it's sadness or whether it's anxiety, whatever the feeling is, whether it's dread or... And then you say, well, okay, just where in your body do you feel the feeling? Where in your body do you feel the feeling? I can guarantee you the person is very unlikely to put their hands on their head. They're much more likely to put their hands somewhere on their body, and very often like this, on the center of the chest, in the area of the heart. This is where we feel, and the heart it's the great pump. It's the great wet pump that's keeping us alive with every beat. But it's also the source of warmth. It's like that inner sun. It's like that, the earth's core. And the great spiritual traditions also talk about, that the great spiritual journey that's common to all traditions is the journey from the head to the heart, to the sacred heart, the boundless, vast source of warmth and kindness and love. And one very simple, and there are many different practices and our many different spiritual traditions that offer different pathways into this, but one of the ways in is through compassionate presence to feelings, by being open to our feelings, by being a welcoming, allowing space, a field of care, a holding field of care that can just allow the feelings, whatever the feelings, to be here, to find their own way, and they can lead us back into that luminous core, that sun, the core of our being. They can bring us all the way home to our deepest nature, which is love, kindness, and warmth. And we are, our little hearts are like glowing coals in the great furnace that is the heart of the world. And it matters that we remember this, that we remember this, that we don't just remember it in a sense of recollection or understanding, but that we actually come back into, allow this to draw us into oneness with it. So we become this. So we become the change we wish to see in the world. And we bring that into our own lives, into the lives of others, into the life of our world. We become fierce compassion, and fierce compassion melts ice. Fierce compassion melts ice. And now for Joanna. I'm going to give the last little while to Joanna, talking about the Shambhala. This is Joanna Macy, for those of you who haven't met her before. This is some years ago, a younger Joanna, probably about 10 years ago or 15 years ago. And she's talking about a prophecy, which is really about how we bring this fierce compassion back into our world, and the teachings she received from her Tibetan teachers on how to do this. So here's Joanna.
In the Tibetan tradition, there is a prophecy that has taken on great meaning for me and my friends and colleagues. It was made 12 centuries ago, and when I went back to the community that I'm very close to in northwest India, Tashijong, where I've belonged to it in a way for the last 45 years since we were there in the Peace Corps. When I went back in the 1980s, they were talking about this prophecy as coming true in our time. So I said, oh, what's it about? And they said, it's so amazing. It's about a very dark time. My dear friend and teacher, Dugu Chögyal Rinpoche, tells it this way, and I share it in that same way. And it has been like getting my marching orders for this time of the Great Turning. So it goes like this. There comes a time when all life on earth is in danger. In this time, great powers have arisen, barbarian powers, and although they waste their wealth in preparations to annihilate each other, they have much in common. Weapons of unfathomable death and devastation, and technologies that lay waste the world. And it is just at this point, when all the future of all beings hangs by the frailest of threads, that the kingdom of Shambhala emerges. Now you can't go there. It's not a place. It exists in the hearts and minds of the Shambhala warriors. Actually, you can't tell a Shambhala warrior by looking at her or him because they wear no uniforms, no insignia, we have no banners. have no barricades on which to climb to threaten the enemy or behind which they can rest and regroup. They don't even have any home turf. Forever and always they must move across the terrain of the barbarian powers. And Chogyal Rinpoche said to me, now is the time when great courage is required of the Shambhala warriors. Moral courage and physical courage, because they're going to go into the heart of the barbarian powers to dismantle their weapons. And weapons in every sense of the word. The bombs and armaments manufactured and deployed, and the corridors of power where the decisions are made. To dismantle the weapons. And he said, Joanna, mark this. The Shambhala warriors know that these weapons can be dismantled because they are manomaya, mind-made. They are made by the human mind, they can be unmade by the human mind. Because the disasters that are threatening us and unfolding are not brought about by some extraterrestrial force or some satanic deity or even by an unchangeable, inexorable fate. They arise from our relationships and our priorities and our habits. They are made by the human mind, they can be unmade by the human mind. So the time is upon us, he said, when the Shambhala warriors go into training. Well, you can imagine. I said, how do they train? And he said they train in the use of two weapons. And that was the term he used. What are they, I asked. And he held up his hands the way the lamas hold the ritual objects in the great lama dances of this people. And he said, one is compassion, and the other is insight into the radical interdependence of all phenomena. And you need both. One is not enough. You need the compassion because that provides you the fuel, the motive force to get you out there where you need to be to do what you need to do. And what it consists of, basically, is not being afraid of the suffering of your world. And you know, when you're not afraid of the suffering of your world, nothing can stop you. But that by itself, he said, is too hot. It can burn you out. So you need the other. You need that wisdom, that insight into the mutual belonging of everything that is interwoven as it is in the web of life. And when you have that, you see, you know that this is not a war between the good guys and the bad guys, but that the line between good and evil runs through the landscape of every human heart. And we are so interwoven in the web of life that even the smallest act with clear intention has repercussions through that web that we can barely see. But that, he said, is a little cool by itself. So you need the heat of the compassion. And if you've looked at the Tibetan monks chanting, often you will, in their pujas, you will see their hands doing moving mudras. And often as not, they are dancing the interplay between karuna and prajna, compassion and wisdom. Well, that's the prophecy. And this is it, I've got my marching orders. And I remember my son Jack was with me at the time, with the rest of the family, living. We had quarters at the edge of the settlement. And I went home that evening and I said, "You won't believe the prophecy I just heard from Shuja Rinpoche." And I told it. And Jack said, "What did he tell you how it's going to turn out? Did he tell you how it's going to end?" I laughed and said, "No, thank goodness. I wouldn't have believed him if he'd told me how it's going to turn out. And don't you believe anyone either who tells you how it's going to turn out. It's that not knowing that is our great gift, that don't know mind that lets us be great and lets great things happen."